And now our feature presentation.
Welcome to the groomer next door.
It's a ghost. Halloween, 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 trick or treat to the Halloween beat. It's Halloween.
You're listening to my mommy and daddy.
Hey Pups and Kittens, welcome to episode 51 of The Groomer Next Door. I am your co-host Chris Green. Sitting next to me as always is the lovely Sarah.
Hello.
And you didn't have an incident this week, which is also great.
Incident?
Remember last week, the guys inside?
Oh yeah, no. The only incident I had was over at Claire's soccer game.
Well, we'll talk about that later. So anyways, let us start off by saying this week we're going to actually go into a whole different discussion since winter is coming up. We have a lot of different things that are changing in the environment. It's going to get cold for some. It's going to get even colder for others. We also
in some parts of the globe, it's going to get hotter.
There you go. So we're going to actually go over disaster preparedness for animals. And, of course, we're going to, go into what we can do as humans as well. We have a real special guest today from a great rescue and shelter out in St. Helena, California. And if you guys don't know where that is, it is right outside of Napa, California. So if you're going to have a cup of coffee, I'd suggest pour a bottle of wine so you can have both. Because trust me, I wanted to actually grab a bottle of wine when I was talking with the great director of that facility.
And for most people, they might not know, but that area is known for their wineries, especially in actual Napa Valley. But they're very known for their exquisite taste in wine.
It is called wine country for a reason, and it is...
Because I honestly didn't know that until I met you. Yep. I could care less. So
until you went there, and then you're like, I could live here.
Ooh, one drink and I'm done. I like this.
I swear, I think if I lived up in Napa, I would probably spend most of my time on the days off drinking wine outside, looking at the vineyards. Yep. Yeah, you knew exactly where I was going. All right, and so let's start off with last week. Now, we had a few things going on, and sorry for that, everybody. I know you guys don't know it. We had to stop for a second there. I would think that microphones and everything get out.
He sat kind of to the side waiting, quite nicely. A gentleman stopped and asked for direction to Papa John's.
I still would think that mics and everything.
Okay, hold on just a second. It's fine to help.
It does happen, though. One of the things about recording this, we record outside because the weather is so nice.
Yes.
Part of the things,
we're not going to get very many days like this.
No, we're not. Throughout the entire year that we've been recording this, we have been approached while recording.
Almost every episode,
exactly. I almost put up signs saying, shush, I'm recording.
But that's what happens when you record in a public spot. You can't exactly... the only time we can say, hey, leave us alone is when we're recording outside our house.
That is true, and even at that, we don't get that either. How many times have we record outside the house and somebody pulls up, hey, where's so-and-so direction to this house?
True. We've had that.
We've had that. So it seems like...
continue on with explaining...
So anyways, last week, we were going to go into last week and what went on last week. Well, for starters, I have to go into a sidebar. I'm so proud of our daughter. We had our first parent-teacher conference last week.
Yes.
Our daughter is doing phenomenal in her class. We really appreciate her teacher. Her teacher is awesome. I don't think Mrs. Brown actually listens to our show. She knows of it, but I'm pretty sure she doesn't listen to it.
Well, she does a lot of farming, so anything...
Why doesn't she listen to it while farming? You know what? I have a feeling you're listening to this episode because I probably recommended, hey, put this on your phone because you got an iPhone. I saw it. I think I'm going to recommend it. I have to mention something she said before I forget. I said I was going to mention this during, I said it to myself during parent-teacher conference. She told the funniest story. It wasn't our daughter who said it, but I have been laughing about it ever since. She was giving out coloring pictures to, blank pictures to color on, and it was Martin Luther King Jr. And one of the kids raised his hand and said, oh my gosh, Mrs. Brown, you have a picture of Will Smith. I could not help. I had to share it. I love that story. It had to go in here. I wanted it documented forever.
Poor Mrs. Brown had to go outside cracking up, and the other teacher goes, what's going on? I don't know how you can keep a straight face when you have that many kids coming up with that many slogans and
catch lines all off the
Stuff that
cuff.
would actually get them in trouble if they were to say that in high school when they should have known better. It's just so fun. You have to have the biggest sense of humor to do this.
Oh my gosh! Well,
And
you know,
thanks to her, Claire's having an amazing start to loving school.
and I can understand why Mrs. Brown actually, farms outside. She does farm in class because she's in kindergarten, which isn't that a German garden? No.
A what?
Kindergarten isn't that German gardening?
Oh gosh.
No. Oh, maybe I'm lost. Anyway, so I'm just really proud of Claire. She's doing really well. I love her school. I last year was not in love with her school. I feel like this year we're actually paying for an education opposed to last year that we actually paid for an education and got diddly, where now we have, public school, and it's just remarkable. I'm a huge fan of the school, huge fan of the teachers, love everything about it. So if you are listening, Mrs. Brown, thank you for everything that you do with our daughter and all the other kids. I only do once a week or twice a week for an hour and something in my entire week with kids, and that's Claire Soccer, which we'll do a segment towards the end of the episode, of course. So anyways, enough about our child. How many times do you, as you before you were a parent, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm listening to a radio show or a TV show and they're talking about their kids. Shut up already, I don't care. Then you have a kid and that's all you talk about. So anyways, last week at work, busy week as always.
Busy and steady and relatively good dogs. I mean, there was a few that kind of was very difficult, but...
I can only think of two. Of course, the nail trim at the end of the week, the last one.
Yeah, I'll get into that one.
Yeah, that was rough. I can't think of any real, besides the typical, you wash them and they poop on the table when they're drying because they weren't walked before. And then afterwards, a few seconds after you clean it up, then they pee all over the table because, again, they weren't walked before. And
that and the fact that their owners don't take the dogs to the groomer but once every 6 months. And it's a Shih Tzu and it should be groomed every 6 weeks.
Right.
So that makes it a lot difficult for a dog to understand what's going on because they don't really know. Like, to us, you're getting washed. And while you're getting washed, you're getting massaged. So how does that not feel good?
Well, it's not really the washing that scares them. It's more or less the friction of the dryer. Not in their face. We always say this. You never put the dryer in their face.
And we got a little nifty thing we put over their face, their head to cover their ears, so it's not so loud for them. It's
more of the feeling of drying on their back, and we've said it before.
It might be stimulating.
I think that's what it is. You're actually, and that's exactly the point. You're drying the back of their legs. That drift of wind is hitting their back region. And it's probably stimulating their areas, and that, of course, allows flow. It's not as much fear as more of, oh my gosh, that feels so good, and you poop. Yeah. So, anyway, we want to make sure we got it.
We don't have the table that's nice and flat and smooth. It has in its built-in grooves.
Yeah.
I've never cared for it. It's supposed to help the dog feel more comfortable on the table. But I've never seen any dogs really feel comfortable on that.
I don't think you can feel comfortable on that.
Well, my table is squishy.
Yeah, you have a squishy one.
They feel more comfortable. They're not like they're walking on tile.
Walking on sunshine.
They get annoyed by it.
I'm walking on sunshine. Okay.
So.
Wait, this isn't karaoke? The karaoke next door?
Then it's harder to pick up the stuff and get it clean. Then you have to use a bunch of stuff. You got to scrub real hard versus a flat top. You pick it up, spray the stuff on, scrub it, you're done.
You're done.
This stuff you have to scrub it.
Oh my gosh, when some poo gets in that groove and you have to kind of get in there, oh my gosh, that drives me nuts.
Lovely topic. Anywho.
Yeah. Hope everybody's not having a cup of coffee right now. I mean, it's Monday morning when you guys are all probably listening. I know one person in particular in a town over it's about 8 o'clock, 8:30, and she's probably just downloaded, streaming the episode. Yeah.
So,
sorry, April.
The other biggest problem that we had this week was the Vishal hound being boarded. We had technical difficulty. My something happened. My mic and came off.
Yeah, the actual windsock actually came off your mic.
So, anywho, we were talking about the Vizsla Hound that was being boarded with us. I think they were picking up today.
Yes.
But Friday they came in. The dog was real nervous. She wasn't used to being out of the house. You can tell. But she didn't offer to bite. She didn't threaten. She didn't try to do anything like that. So we took her back, and she was just fine. The mom and kid went along with to see where she was going to be staying. About 3 o'clock rolls around, and Craig lets all the dogs out to go to their bathroom, and they get a big run that they can go and exercise real nice. If people want playtimes, we do the playtimes too. But we let her out. She went to the, roaming everywhere. She was real nervous. She didn't know what was going on. About 20 minutes later, Craig goes to get Zoe back into her kennel, and Zoe darted from him. And then turned around, showed all of her teeth with her hair on her back sticking straight up, and her tail just as steady as possible, and lunging at him. Naturally, it freaked Craig out. He's only been working with dogs for, I would say, about, I think he said 3 years, 4 years.
Is it that? I don't really know a lot of his background. I think he's only been here, so I know that.
So he has been working with animals for a while, but my 10 years experience coming up kind of helps out a little bit. So he comes up to me, and a lot of them do that. If there is a highly aggressive dog that needs help, then I end up going and seeing what I can do. I can normally get the situation either under control or whatnot if they call me. I don't have a problem with it. I don't get paid for it, but I would much rather be the one in there calming down the situation and allowing the dog to have a good stay versus I don't get paid for it. You guys figure it out. If the dog's going to have to deal with being stressed, the dog's going to have to deal with it.
It's your problem. I don't care.
So I went out there. I assessed the situation. First of all, I go and I talk to the dog in a baby voice. Hi, baby. How you doing, honey? Just baby. Well, then she lunged at me. Big old teeth flying, slobber just flinging everywhere, hair on her back sticking up. And Vizsla hounds have very short hair. So when that short hair is sticking straight up, you can tell. I actually got a little fearful. I'm not going to lie. I was scared. I'm in a pen with nothing to protect me. I don't have anything. All I have is a leash. And that's it. So then I tried baby talking again. That wasn't working. She darted away from me. When I looked at the situation, it reminded me of the situation of a dog not knowing who's in control. So therefore the dog has to take control. And when they have to take control, they start their aggression. They use their teeth. So I needed to take that control away from her and back to me. So in a strong mommy voice, like people like to call it, I said, Zoe, sit. And she sat and she actually peed. I'm like, okay, well, she's showing signs of submission. I can work with that. So I took 3 steps towards her. She darted away from me. I clapped my hands real loud. I said, Zoe, sit. Again, very sternly. She sat. I was able to take about 5 steps towards her. She darted again. Well, right when she did that, I smacked my hands again and said even louder with a deeper voice, Zoe, sit. She sat. I was able to walk towards her. She acted like she wanted to get away, and she showed me her teeth. I snapped, pointed at her, and I said, no. She sat there just fine, put the lead around her neck, and walked her to her kennel.
Now, of course, you had to do nail trimming on her this past Friday. She was pretty aggressive. She had to get muzzled.
Luckily, when we got her out of the kennel, she already had an experience with me. So I, once again, stern voice, Zoe, sit. So I put the lead around her neck and take her to the leash around her and take her to the salon. We got to the salon. The first thing I did, I knew I was going to have to put that muzzle on. There's just no way she was going to go from being that aggressive to good enough for me to trim nails.
Yeah, it was not going to change.
So we got a nice muzzle where the dog can open its mouth completely. They can pant, they can lick, everything. But they can't get to me. It's really nifty. Put one of those on, nice and big. And I proceeded to trim her one paw. She wasn't too terrible. That's when we got to the second paw.
Yeah, man. You can hear clamping down because she can still move her mouth. She just can't. She can't actually get to you.
Yeah.
You would hear clamping down. I mean, if that would have hit arm and skin, that would have locked, and it would have probably been a lock for a while. I mean, that would have been harsh.
She was actually trying to go for my hand, and she actually pushed my hand away a few times, and snapping down.
Yep.
So. I just kind of put a little pressure on her side just to kind of like what Thundershirt would do for a dog during a thunderstorm. Give them security. So that's what I did, and just talking to her, stop, you're okay, stop, Zoe, no. And we got it done.
Yep, it was done, but boy, that was frightening. That was one of the more frightening experiences in my year being here. It was pretty exciting. All right, well, moving on. Obviously, this week has been very good for us. We had an adoption story to actually give you guys. We had set things up with a lady to come in. She was going to do the interview. She didn't show up.
She was going to go buy a whole thing of furniture.
Right.
And unfortunately, when you're going to buy furniture, you know how long that takes.
It can be hectic.
She
might have had to go right home because they probably were going to deliver that day. So maybe next episode she'll come in, hopefully. If not, we'll have other stories. Now,
this is a great story. If she doesn't come in by next week, we'll tell you the story.
Yeah, we'll tell the
week.
story. So then, we want to make sure we continue to show everybody that it's not just locally what we're doing. We're out there completely all over. We've had Ali come on the show from Hawaii. Last week we had David Backus call us from Palm Springs. We all know he's from the St. Louis Blues. And this week we decided, you know what, let's continue the course. Let's get another good guest on. And I am going to segue into that right now. This lady is in charge, and I'm just going to kind of set this up really briefly. She's in charge of We Care Animal Rescue. It's a great shelter out in St. Helena, California. And you'll actually hear little parts about it. If you recall, you heard me talk about my grandmother's cat passed away a few weeks ago. This lady helped my family out a great deal, and I felt like this was a good opportunity for me to talk to her and put her on the podcast. So
yeah, it was when somebody goes through a loss of a pet, their state of mind sometimes isn't exactly what you call reasonable. But for this person to be so sweet, so nice that your mom and grandmother got a heartwarming feeling is just amazing.
It really was.
I mean, to help comfort somebody in their time of need, it's not easy.
No, it's not.
It's not easy at all.
And they did a great job. I mean, this lady did a great job. So sit back and enjoy this interview.
Isn't it funny? You hear a phone ring and it could be anybody. But a ringing phone has to be answered, doesn't it?
All right, I am sitting here with the executive director of We Care Animal Shelter, and I'm going to just ask you to introduce yourself, tell everybody, all the listeners, all about you, how you got started, and it's all up to you. All right, there you go.
Very good. Thank you. My name is Mary Ellen Makovsky. I'm the executive director here at We Care Animal Rescue in St. Helena, California, in the beautiful Napa Valley. And this organization has been around for 35 years, starting with a couple of kind people who wanted to take in a lot of the left-behind animals in the town of Napa, and eventually grew, and we have a property up here in St. Helena now. We're licensed for 250 cats and 5 small dogs.
All right.
And and I've only been here since the beginning of August, I have 25 years of nonprofit administrative experience, most of it in human services, most recently involving hospice. So I'm very familiar with hospice for humans as well as adult day services for humans. And so that's my background. And now I've come to this organization where we do have hospice for our elderly animals and our chronically ill and animals that have a limited lifespan, as well as the animals that we regularly place out for adoption that are perfectly healthy and deserve forever homes on their own.
Well, that sounds awesome. So you're predominantly cats, with obviously the 5 dogs. Now, do you ever go to different senior villas, senior retirement homes with cats for just petting time to actually calm them? As we've said in other episodes, just the cat's purr can actually help anybody with depression, even elderly, are drawn to cats. Do you ever take a couple cats out and go to a shelter, retirement home?
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that, and I think it's lovely. For us, that may be something in our future, but because we are cage-free sanctuary, anytime, for instance, we even have our vets come to us, because if you're not living in a cage and you're in a building with free roaming access to a fully enclosed and covered as well as open outdoor enclosure, just the fact of putting them into a carrier can be very stressful on them. Mm-hmm. So animals that are trained to do that, that are used to doing that, I wouldn't be ever opposed to adding that to our repertoire here. But certain animals, if they've been cage-free and living in a free roaming environment, that's why we try to always have the vets come to us. And we have some wonderful vets here, because it is stress-inducing to put them into a carrier if they're not used to it. But I've heard of that, and I think that's something that might be fun to look into someday.
All right. Here's one thing a lot of people don't know. We do have our share of cat lovers on the show. One thing that people don't understand is how quickly cats can actually be stressed out. Just a simple litter box can stress them out, and you wonder, how is that even possible?
It's funny. We used to be licensed for many, many more large dogs, and because the city kind of grew up around where we are here in St. Helena, we quickly had noise complaints because late at night, car doors closing from restaurants nearby and things like that. Of course, dogs get stressed out and bark. So we now are only licensed for 5 small dogs. But because all our animals are rescues from difficult situations, our dogs actually end up being the most anxious ones. They're all have a backstory of either horrible abuse or neglect. And so we were working really hard with our 5 small dogs to try to take that pack mentality out. So if one gets stressed, then they all don't get stressed. So we're working on that. But yes, cats can get very stressed very easily. Just the adoption part, where someone comes in and spends time with the animals and figures out we all work together to figure out which cat might be the best match for their home and their family. And then they've decided and they spend time with that animal. Just the mere fact then that you go to scoop up the animal to put it in the carrier to go home sets them off. Mm-hmm. And you always have to explain to people that, set them in a quiet room by themselves for, a few hours when you get home, open the door, but then just leave them be, because they can get very stressed very easily. But they're also very resilient over time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, cats actually are. It's kind of weird when you bring a cat home for the very first time, and this is one of the unique things between my wife and I. She was more of a dog person growing up. I had cats. I know when you bring a cat home, not so much a kitten as more of an adult cat or even a teenage cat, that new environment that they go into, they're very skeptical. They look around. They're not sure what to do. Maybe hide underneath a bed for a day or two. It takes them a lot longer now. A kitten, it's a whole different situation. You bring a kitten in, they're fine. They don't care. They're like a bouncy ball. They're everywhere. It's like they live there forever. It's a unique concept. Yeah. I don't even understand that.
Well, think about it. It's like a baby, a human baby. Everything is new to them every minute of every day. So I don't know if you've ever seen babies, but you can take them anywhere.
Oh,
and
yes.
they just adjust. They don't care. As long as mom and dad or somebody they love is there, they can go anywhere, and it doesn't blow their mind. But you take a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old somewhere new, oh my gosh, it's very hard to adjust. Same thing with a kitten. Everything is new every moment, and they're bouncing off the walls, so they don't care where they are, frankly. We've had them dropped off here, and I bring them into my office, and they wander all over everything, and they don't care. An adult cat brought into a new environment, even if there are no other animals in that environment, we still tell people the best thing to do is keep them into it, like a bathroom. A bathroom's always good because then you can clean up after them and have the litter box and the food, and we have them always use a more secure carrier, the box type with a cage front. If they don't have one, we lend them some of ours, and that way they set it down and they can open it. But this way, if an animal wants to retreat into that carrier for safety for whatever reason, they can do that. And then slowly over time, depending on their acclimatation themselves, then maybe opening the door to maybe a bedroom or another room, and then having them kind of get acclimated to that, and then opening the door for the rest of the house, and then usually supervising them in the rest of the house for like an hour or so at a time. Again, because they can get very nervous to anything new. If you're introducing a cat where there are other animals, especially other cats or dogs, then you want to make sure you take blankets from either one of them or towels or washcloths, whichever, and you exchange them into each carrier or each area so they get used to each other's scent, and then let them sniff each other under doorways for a while. Some cats will want to stay away from the dogs or other cats even for weeks. Others, we just had one tell us a success story. After about 3 days, he was yelling to get out into the rest of the house with the other cats, and very soon after, it takes some adjustment, like a mobile hanging from a ceiling, where you have all the pieces that have found their equilibrium. If you take one away or put a new one on, it's going to take a little while for it to sort itself out and find its new equilibrium. Same thing with cats. They're going to go in and, who's on top today, getting used to each other, feeling comfortable. We've just adopted out 2 cats to go in to meet 2 large dogs. So that's taking a little longer. But as long as people know that it could take up to a month for a new animal to settle in, then it usually works out great. And we're always here to ask any questions.
And that's one of the things that I actually kind of was drawn towards you. As I've said in previous episodes, I said this 2 episodes ago, I think. My grandmother, I told this story on air as well. My grandmother had lost her best friend that she had for, I think we got that cat in 98. She was a kitten. And as I had mentioned, we couldn't keep the cat because our tenant, our landlord, they were really odd. They allowed everybody else to have pets but us. So my grandmother took this cat, and this cat was not friendly by any means, more feral than anything else. And I really don't know a lot about the cat. We didn't have much backstory. Just all we know is that it was found in I guess it was behind some kind of building in a box. Kittens just dumped. And this is Southern California, which you would think better of. I don't know why I would think better of, but you would expect it. And we adopted this one kitten, great cat, but man, she just never lost that feral personality. And she just passed away. Well, they had to euthanize her because her health was terrible. But my mom had called you. You were outstanding. Now, you'd mentioned something to me that really caught my attention. I haven't heard yet, and that was when you recommended my grandmother to come down and just sit with the cats and pet the cat, spend some time with it. Can you talk a little bit about that, because that really got my attention. I was thinking that is a really unique idea.
Oh, we have volunteers. Everyone calls it cat therapy.
Mm-hmm.
They can come in. We give them a blanket and a brush, and we have a beautiful. You can see it on our website. A beautiful outdoor sanctuary, and in California, you can pretty much sit out in that sanctuary mostly year round. Even today, on a bit of a rainy day, it's covered in most areas, and or inside our buildings. And people come in and sit down, and of course, the cats come and pretty much cover you, and you can pet the cats and brush the cats. Even just visitors here for an hour or two, we have them pick up brushes and sit down with the cats. And it's like you were saying about people in nursing home facilities or elder population, how being near an animal, a dog or a cat, and petting an animal can lower blood pressure, can lower heart rate. It's a very relaxing thing to do. And so people come here. Some of them aren't even our volunteers. They're just our regular visitors every Saturday. We have open hours every Saturday afternoon from 2 to 5, and they're drop-in. You just come on in, and we escort you back, and you come and hang out. And they sit there for hours and just brush and pet the cats. And some of them are elderly, and it's wonderful, but it gives them all a chance. They may come in with a load of burdens on their plate, and maybe they're a little stiff and they're not feeling that well that day, and we bring them in and get them set up and sitting down and relaxing. And at the end of those 2 hours, I watch them leave. There's a little more pep in their step. There's a big, bright smile on their faces. They've been around other people for the afternoon that are sitting there with them or visiting, or our animal care specialists that are always roaming around. And you just see them be a very different person leaving. They're always happy. They're always relaxed. And I've seen some of them who come in with a cane when they come in, and they're leaning on it heavily. And when they leave, they kind of forget they kind of have the cane. So I do know that cat therapy works. Our dogs love to be walked as well, and we have people who come and walk the dogs and come and play with the dogs. But animals like the cat, most people that love cats love nothing better than sitting and having them come and nuzzle with you and lay on your lap and nudge your legs and want to be the first one you pet. And we have several cats we like to call dog cats because they're the ones that follow our visitors around and reach up to be petted like a dog. So it's really amazing, and we love our visitors because having 250 cats, even though we're all out there with them so much of the day, the more the merrier. The more human interaction, the better. We have some cats, probably about a quarter of our population have been ferals at one point or another. Some of them are still ferals, and they're the ones that when you walk toward them, you get about 10 feet away and they kind of squirt to another area that feels safer to them. Or they climb up and go straight up into the rafters underneath the roof, the exterior roof, and just look down at everybody and enjoy themselves up there. But a lot of them have socialized because we're with them so much. So some of them were truly feral when they came in, and a couple years later, you'd never know they were feral. So, and some of them never do anything but become feral, like your grandmothers. I remember after the earthquake, we got a lot of calls from a lot of people whose animals that were aging and or chronically ill took sudden turns for the worst. And I lived through it in Napa, so I'm here to tell you it was an incredibly stressful event. And so I'm here to tell you, I know it was. And these animals, it's hard to know if furniture landed on them. It's hard to know what happened. But if you have an elderly person, we had a lot of our elders people do that after the earthquake as well. You know, a really massive traumatic stress on somebody with comorbidities, other problems wrong with them, it makes everything worse. And so your mom called about your grandmother's cat like a lot of people did, trying to sort out, we're not sure what's wrong with it. And, fixed income people would call. And while we don't have the budget to send everybody, a free visit to a vet, I've been able to research and found some low-cost options for people, and I did that for your mom. So they could go to a vet knowing that vet wasn't going to upcharge them or do anything, was going to just charge them $47 for a visit, which, by the way, I'm sure your people in the rest of the country say that's a lot, but out here that's actually quite cheap in California. And that's what they did. And your mom was so kind after our many conversations to call me back and tell me that the eventuality was that they had to humanely euthanize this loving companion of her grandmother's. And I was so grateful that I heard that, because I didn't always get the backstory or the final outcome from most people. And, you know, again, traumatic events are difficult. And having a family live through an event like that, even though we love our pets, we're just trying to pick up the pieces of our lives after something like that. So you kind of, you know, the cat gets sort of put in the corner of your mind, because you're just trying to pick up furniture and pick it back and put it where it was, and pick up all the glass and you know, use your shovels in your kitchen to throw everything from your cabinets, including all of your dishes and everything you own, into a dumpster. So, you know, your animals are sort of, okay, look, they look okay, great. Lock them in the bedroom where there's no glass. Now let's do the rest of the house. So it was traumatic for everybody. So.
And, you know, for a lot of our listeners, of course, living in the Midwest now, I grew up in Southern California. I know firsthand how bad earthquakes can be. They are traumatic. They are sudden. You have no warning. Living in a place that we now deal with tornadoes, it's a little bit different. You'll hear the sirens, or you'll be watching the news. You kind of have a little bit more impact of when one could hit, if they will, if they won't. With earthquakes, if anybody who's listening has never lived through it, it is traumatic. Would I go from a tornado to an earthquake? Which would I prefer? I don't really know where I would take that. Earthquakes are a little bit less common, I guess you could say. We have tornado seasons, so when it gets cold to hot or hot to cold, it does have more of a chance. With earthquakes, you just never know. And being up in northern,
but still traumatic.
Yeah,
it's
they are.
still traumatic.
But up
and
in
you
northern,
still, you know, your animal.
Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, your animal, and you're looking around to see what survived. I mean, did your house fall off the foundation? Did your house get destroyed? In which case, a lot of ours in Napa did. And so, again, if the animal's alive and it looks okay, you're not necessarily going to take it to the vet the next day, because you're not even thinking about, bandaging up your, cut feet at that moment.
Yes.
So it is a difficult time with the animals. You're thinking people first. You've got an elderly grandmother. Is she okay? Does the cat look okay? Yeah, the cat looks fine. So it wasn't a time where, you would go the next day. Like if a big piece of furniture fell over and you think it hit your cat, and there was nothing else wrong in your house, you would take the cat to the vet.
Yes.
But because it's so hard to know, because they're just going to keep running is what they'll do. So they'll get a foot caught or a tail caught, and they'll run away from it. And that's, they do so much damage that way.
Yeah, that was the interesting part, is the cat was underneath the bed, it got into the, kind of ripped the bottom of the bed, kind of climbed into the box area, and she was in there for a while. Didn't show any signs of injury whatsoever. I know my mom had said that her tail was dragging behind her. She wasn't lifting her tail. That I wasn't sure. I'm not a vet, so I don't have a clue what that could have meant. But she was old, so it was rough.
We had a few cats brought in that were rescues that had paralyzed tails, and if they're not amputated right away because they drag, they actually start to paralyze the animal's bowel and bladder, because the nerves get, the way the veterinarians have described it to us, the nerves in the spine get pulled, and so as they get pulled, they go up the spinal canal and start paralyzing and putting pressure on those various organs during the end. So if a cat had a broken tail or a paralyzed tail, immediately having it amputated might make it so the animals rest, they don't have any more paralysis. But it's so hard to notice, was it broken? Was it paralyzed? Was the animal just no longer, animals drag their tails also when they're ill. So it's very hard to know. But no, the animals, and a lot of them won't show you that they're hurt, and maybe something glanced off of them but is causing internal bleeding. So it's just so hard to know. I mean, anybody who's lived through maybe part of their house collapsing in a tornado or in a hurricane or in an earthquake knows you have no idea what just happened. You just only see the parts and pieces that are laying there. So
very true, and I think an earthquake lasts a lot less time. The duration is a lot less than what a tornado
ours is only 20 seconds.
You're right, but it seems like
count
forever.
to 20 seconds. Count to 20 seconds. I mean, not right now, but have your folks on listening. Just look at a clock for 20 seconds and imagine what that's like for 20 seconds.
Very true. I mean, I was out in Orange County, which is, if people who are listening don't know, it's right where Disneyland is. I was out there when the Northridge earthquake happened.
Yeah.
It was massive. I remember back somewhere in the 80s, I think it was 88, when San Francisco had its big earthquake. I was young, so I don't remember it too much. I just remember what we felt down in Southern California. But the devastation that can happen, I mean, bridges collapse, buildings completely go to the ground. It is a massive, like you said, 20 seconds of just shaking, how it destroys.
Yeah, that's why we lost a lot of our older buildings here, the stonework. We're not allowed to build with stones out here like you folks over there with bricks and cinder blocks and things because of the earthquake. You have to build very, very securely here. But all the older buildings that didn't have those regulations attached to them when they were built, those are the ones that were destroyed or seriously heavily damaged or fell off foundations. So, and when you think about the devastation for the people, I mean, the stress for all the individuals, and then you think about the stress for the animals. Our dogs here were in the lobby. It was the middle of the night, in case people don't know. It was 3:19 in the morning. And so our dogs are all small dogs, and because of the noise complaints, our dogs have to be indoors in our lobby at night. This is why we have so many wonderful, amazing team of cleaners, because we are free roaming as well for our cats and dogs. And it's a lot different than hosing out a kennel or a cage. Anyway, so they were in the secure part of our out sort of a middle lobby where we have office space. And there's a 4-foot door that you have to open to go into a smaller lobby before the front door. So that way if somebody opens the front doors, the dogs don't race out the front door. And one of our dogs, Smokey, who is a 31 flavors, but has a lot of Basenji in him. I'm not sure if your folks know that kind of dog. You can look it up. It's one of the oldest dog types. He's from Africa, I guess, Basenjis. Anyways, he's got Basenji in him as well as a bunch of other things. But he actually jumped on top of the gate and then went on the other side and then pushed the gate open for all of the other dogs to go by the front door.
Oh, wow.
And we know he did this because we had 2 wonderful folks that live right near here that came. Those of us from Napa couldn't come right away. I mean, I had power lines down in front of my house. I couldn't leave anywhere till that night. But anyways, folks that live nearby came and checked, and we know it because as the people were working that day here, he kept doing it all day. He'd jump on top, go in there, push the gate open, and have them all go to the front. So he was trying to save them. So it's interesting what animals do. Our cats seem to be okay when everyone looked at them because nothing fell over. St. Helena is a distance away, 20 miles away from Napa. And we have most of our furniture secured against walls and things, of course. Being in California, you sort of naturally do that. And so nothing fell over of any, a few things fell off shelves, but nothing bad. No animals were hurt. No cats were injured. And they seemed to be okay. They were a little on edge that day, but they seemed to be fine. Down in where the earthquake was centered, the 6.0 in Napa, I know the dogs and the cats in the Napa area, some of them are still missing, which is so very sad. Dogs ran away, and our animal shelter down in Napa has a whole room where they're holding dogs whose houses were destroyed, trying to help the people get their feet back on their feet in a rental situation that can have dogs. We still have people with flyers up with missing cats. So, yeah, very, very stressful. But even up here where it didn't do any devastating damage, everybody just felt it, and the electricity was knocked out and things like that. The animals reacted just like people do.
Oh, they do. Now, I'm pretty sure you're aware of petfinder.com.
Yes.
I hear of it all the time. Anybody who's listening, maybe there is some people in the Northern California area, if they are looking for their pet, petfinder.com is a great website to go on to. You might be able to find it. I mean, surprise
I've definitely heard of different stories. I just heard one recently where there was a animal lost. There was a dog. I think it was back in Katrina, and it went missing. And I think it was a year or two after. Sorry, I don't have my facts exactly in front of me, but about a year or two after Katrina, they actually were at a shelter, and I'm pretty sure they weren't anywhere near where their home was, and their dog was sitting right there at the shelter.
Wow.
This is where we always say, put chips in your animals, because if the animal
Yeah.
shelters get it, they can check the chip. And of course, microchipping is a smart little thing to do. Technology is finally catching up, so that definitely always helps people. We're always mentioning it.
Yeah, and we always tell people, too, we have one of our animal care specialists does quite a lot of, specializes and coordinates our rescue work here. In other words, there's quite the wonderful electronic network of those of us in the area, in the Northern California area, that when there's a missing animal, we put it on our rescue network and email all the 30 or 40 or 50 different other organizations, shelters, rescues, that type of thing, people that foster animals. And then we also regularly place lost or missing animals and or animals that need adoption, not only from our website, on our Facebook page, We Care Animal Rescue. Come and like us on Facebook. We have a lot of great stuff on there. And so we did a lot of that right after the earthquake, but we also tell people your local animal shelter, like the Napa County Animal Shelter, because they know how to read the microchips, and we're very blessed here. They don't have to euthanize for space. We have a wonderful shelter here. We also have wonderful rescues besides ourselves in the Napa Valley area. So, animals aren't just brought in and put down. I know in some parts of the country, space is a real problem, and that's a horrible problem. But here we're pretty blessed. And so the animal shelter, anybody who called us, we had them email us pictures of the animals. We put them on our Facebook. We put them up on the rescue network. So we were able to weave together those lost strands quite a few times after the earthquake, which was really lovely, everyone working together. So people, I always told people, make up little simple flyers, put them up on the poles in your neighborhood and then the next neighborhood over. Everybody that I know was looking at the flyers quite a bit as we took walks or ran or hiked for the next few weeks after the earthquake. And there were a few times I'd call people and say, I'm not sure, but I think I saw a cat or a dog that looks like yours here. So all of those things help. Never give up hope, and try to think of old school, telephone poles and things. Mm-hmm. You fly a lot of grocery stores and places like that, and post office let you put up flyers, as well as churches and things like that, and the new school stuff, all the electronic media and pet finders and things like that is good too.
It does help. Well, in our final moments, I want to always make sure we get all information out to everybody who's listening. Email addresses, phone numbers to call you, address to visit you if you're in the St. Helena area, just all the typical mumbo jumbo that you want to get out to everybody so they want to come and visit you. So let us know how can somebody come out, spend some time with the dogs, the address and all that.
Sure. Oh, fabulous. Yes. We are in St. Helena, California, which is in the Napa Valley. Our address is 1345 Charter Oak Avenue. And our phone number out here is 707-963-7044. And you can reach us you can go to our website. We are WeCareAnimalRescue.org. And if anybody wants to email me specifically, they'd like to come and look at any of the animals on Facebook or anything, they can email me at Mary Ellen, which is MaryEllen, at WeCareAnimalRescue.org. So I really appreciate this time to be able to share who we are with you.
We are very pleased to have had you, and we'll definitely do this again.
So we really thank you for coming on to this episode. It was an amazing thing in parts that you actually didn't hear pre-recording. First thing I asked her was, do you know what a podcast is? we've mentioned it many a times. Obviously, everybody who's listening to the show, you guys all know what it is. But for a lot of people out there, people don't understand what this is. And to my amazement, she's like, oh, yeah, I completely know what it is. And I just almost kind of dropped because I'm not used to that in conversation. Now, one thing that I think Apple has done great recently is when they've done their update, which another thing that we were discussing before we started recording was they came up with their new update 8.0 or something like that, and it was like 8.1 now or something to that effect. It was funny, she's like, I didn't do the first update until recently, and that made me laugh because I did the first update, and it shows podcasts so much more clearer now than it ever did before. I do want to mention, because I know you're listening to this episode, I took your advice on the radio station you told me about. They had a podcast. I have it already set on my phone, and I will start listening to it Monday. You recommended it to me, and I will start listening to that. So I just want to let you know on that one. And I know you're listening from the interview. Thank you again for doing it. Now, you've also kind of inspired us to range our show this episode on disaster preparedness. As you can go back in that interview, we were talking about the earthquake that happened in Napa a couple months ago. It wasn't planned. That's the funny part. When Sarah was listening to the recording today, she goes, that's not a bad topic. I'm like, no, it was actually good. So we want to actually move from a great interview onto the next topic, which is our main topic today, and that is disaster preparedness with an animal. Now, we can actually modify this as well. You can be a person who may only have animals, and when there's an earthquake, a tornado, or you have a hurricane come through, whichever one of your disasters you deal with, these are things you can do. So I'm going to actually play a clip for you, and then we're going to discuss. Anything you want to add in?
Nope.
All right. Sit back and enjoy this clip.
Good afternoon. I am Dr. Marilyn Christensen, the City of El Paso Shelter Veterinarian, and I'm here today to talk to you about disaster preparedness. In the City of El Paso, I'm told that the only real disasters that you guys have are those that are related to rain and flooding. That makes it somewhat easier, but sometimes it's important to remember that there are those individual disasters that also come, like a house fire or a gas leak in a few block radius. There are other reasons. So you want to be able to prepare for both of those, and it's important not only to have a plan, but to have a backup plan. Perhaps you have family and friends who live in a different area of town than you do. Well, that's good to count on them, but what if the flooding keeps you from getting over to that area of town? Or maybe you think that your veterinarian will be able to take them, and that's good. Many veterinarians will do boarding, particularly in case of an emergency. But you want to have other plans as far as how about some hotels or motels that are near your home that you could go to in an emergency. Many of those, even if they normally won't take dogs and cats, will take them during an emergency situation. Many of the Red Cross shelters will not take dogs and cats, but they will have an adjacent section just outside of the housing area for people where you can take your dogs and cats. So in the event that you end up in one of those shelters, you want to have the situation going into it as best you can. It's important right now to start looking into whether the vaccines are current for your animals, because they will want, both the veterinarians and the shelters, that you have your animals vaccinated. If you've moved since you have had the animal microchip, make sure that you have changed the address. If you've changed your telephone number over the last few moves, then make sure that that telephone number is updated. That's very important, particularly if your animal gets loose from you in a time of stress. You'll want to have a crate or a leash for each of your animals, and try not to put them two together, because even a situation where animals are happy being buddies in the home may not hold true in an emergency. Times that are very stressful create times that animals don't want to be together, so they'll need their own crate and their own leash. Another thing you might want to do is make sure that you have your tags updated so that they have your current information on it, or just write your name, address, and telephone number on the inside of the collar of each of your animals. Now, in order, you've got your animals ready to go in case of a disaster, but what do you need to take with you? Most lists will indicate that you want to have 3 to 5 days worth of food, the water, any dishes that you have. If your animals take any regular medications, you'll want to have enough to last 3 to 5 days of that. You'll want to have any bedding that will make them comfortable, as well as remind them of home and family. Any toys that might make them more comfortable in the stressful situation as well. It's also important to remember that your cat may need a litter box and need some litter for that time being, and that the dog you need to have some cleanup supplies for the dog as well. The last thing to remember is that sometimes when an accident or a disaster occurs, we aren't at home. When the first responders come to your home, they aren't going to know who's in there and who they have to look at to save. So it's important to have a first responder decal on the front window. These are available at pet stores. Just indicate how many dogs, cats, birds, reptiles you have in the house so that they know what to be looking for. So again, it's important to have a plan ahead of time and to follow that plan, and to have a backup plan in case things don't go as well as you'd like to have them. Again, this is Dr. Marilyn Christensen for the City of El Paso with your vet message of the month.
All right, so we're going to discuss exactly what she said, but we're going to modify it because there are discrepancies that both of us, find that needed to be addressed.
Yes. The one part that, if you took everything that she suggested, you would have at least 2 suitcases full of dog stuff.
Yes. Or cat.
Or, animal stuff, depending on how many you have. In our family, we have the both of us and our daughter, okay? To me, that's the most important, to make sure that we have something.
Yes.
But we have animals too. So we're not going to take as much for ourselves because we still need to carry the dog stuff with us. So we do, accommodate for the dogs. But taking everything she discussed can be a little much.
It can. And here's one of my backgrounds that a lot of you don't know. One of my big backgrounds, and I have training in this, is disaster preparedness. Now, with that, you have to make sure the first thing that you know is your safety is key. So if you're in an earthquake, now, as you heard in the conversation, if you've never been through an earthquake, now Sarah and I have. If you've been through an earthquake, you can tell that they can be anywhere from 5 to 20 seconds long. Now, 20 seconds, as you heard in that conversations, doesn't sound like much. But when there's a lot of shaking going on, it's a lifetime.
Yeah, 20 seconds of an earthquake is crazy. That is pretty well unheard of for 20 full seconds.
Yes.
Most
and at
of them
6.0, that is rough.
Yes. Now, most of them are typically, 5-10 seconds long, enough to let you realize you're going through an earthquake and stand up and think, what's next?
Right.
20 seconds, you should already go all the way out. And it's pretty crazy.
So one of the things that we want everybody to know is if you're in an earthquake, let's start off if you're in earthquake country, any part of the country or anywhere in the world, if that's the case, where you have earthquakes. First and foremost, find shelter. Your animals have already done so. They're smart enough to know how to find shelter. Second, once you know that it's safe, depending on the damage in your house or wherever you're at, assess the damage. If you're in an unsafe environment, get out.
Because animals are typically smart enough to know where to go. A lot of people end up losing their lives because they feel like they have to go save their animals. It's a noble effort. But most of the time, especially with cats, they see an open window, they're going to go.
They're out the door.
They're gone.
Yes.
So that's why it's important to make sure they're microchipped.
Yes. That is the first and foremost. Microchipping is the first thing. Now, again, here's the other thing. If you're in a tornado environment or a hurricane environment, which are very similar in their own, if you're in any kind of environment which has those two things, you're going to have a warning at least some kind of warning. You're going to have in your weather update, you're going to know that you're going to have a good, strong storm coming through at X amount of time of the day, so prepare ahead of time.
You don't know when a tornado is actually going to hit down.
But you know that you have severe weather is en route.
Yes, when our technology and weather prediction is so much more advanced today versus back in the 50s.
Or even the 90s.
True. When you're having severe storms and people are saying, hey, you got warnings, you got watches going on, this is the time to gather your supplies that may be scattered. You should always have supplies in a local area so you can grab and go.
Yeah, you want to have a preparedness kit, a disaster preparedness kit, always prepared. Now, that would be for two different ways. For a human, you want to have change of clothes, you want to have a suitcase packed and ready at all times. That way you're set. Have chargers for phones available. Now, most times, if you're in an earthquake or even a tornado, power lines are going to be down. There might be electricity down. Phones might be down. But have everything you need accessible. Second, if you're going to make sure your pets, which is our big topic here, a very simple box, one of those plastic Tupperware type boxes, big enough to put a litter pan, a small thing of cat sand, if you have cats, a toy or two for cats. You want to have a small thing of food. Make sure it can at least get them 3 to 4 days, as they mentioned. You know, a simple bag will do it. A bed, and put it in that plastic thing, lock it up, be prepared. If it's somewhere accessible, by a door, a garage, something that you can grab and go, that'll work. Don't have this stuff scattered in your drawers and all over the place beforehand.
See, in a tornado environment, you are instructed, if you do not have a basement, you're instructed to get into a room that is not sharing a wall with the outside. Now, unfortunately with our house, that's my mom's bathroom. It's a bathroom in one of the bedrooms, and it's very small, and we have a lot of animals.
Right, but we can fit everybody.
Yes.
It is still a storm shelter-ish.
Yeah, one person sits on the counter, one person can sit on the toilet.
Couple in the bathroom.
And about the three of us in the bathroom, and then the dogs and cats and stuffed everywhere.
Right.
So you want to keep that Tupperware right next to it or close to.
I would put it in a garage or by the front door because it's going to be your exit
No, because
points.
if you're in a tornado, there's nowhere to exit.
True.
So you have to be in the home, whether it's in the basement where it's the safest, in a storm shelter where it's even more safer.
Yeah, because your building could come down and you could be trapped in there.
Or
that is a good point.
like our situation, since we do not have a storm shelter, we do not have a basement, and an internal room is your best bet. So our water is right next to one of the bedrooms where we grab and go into the bathroom to seek shelter, right? I myself, in our situation, I would not grab the dog's beds.
No, not a dog bed. I mean, you can do it for a cat. You can have it in a box.
I wouldn't do that either. Honestly, if it was me, and I'm thinking we need necessities, that's food and water. That's it. We get in there, we get food, the water, we get in there, we're safe. Now, if we have a little more extra time, then I would think about the bedding. I would think about the toys, the treats. I would think about that secondly. You see what I'm saying? I know you have a little different.
Yeah, I have my take is have all this stuff ready now. Have it ready when you don't need it. Prepare it and put it away.
Puppy Great Pyrenees right there.
Yes, it is.
Sorry.
When you actually put this stuff together, if you put it together, let's just say you put it together today, and you don't need it again for another month or two, God forbid, but if that happens, it's there and ready. And that's the example right there. If you're, getting all this stuff together day of incident, if it's a hurricane, you're not going to have any kind of supplies. Everybody is going down to the local market and they're picking up all supplies. There's nothing. If you're in tornado kind of weather, which we are, that's the same thing. You go down to the market the day that you're hearing there's a severe storm, and there's very little available for you. Now, of course, if you are in earthquake territory, an earthquake could happen right now, or right now, or right now. Exactly that. There's no prediction. Warning. And with California, one thing that we were able to live through is there is the San Andreas Fault, which for a lot of you just hear San Andreas and you think it's a part of Grand Theft Auto, which I can understand, but actually San Andreas fault is in Southern California, which we were used to. Preparedness is key. We're always saying, have all this stuff ready. My take is prepare a actual storm, earthquake, disaster preparedness kit. Put it away, put it somewhere safe. This stuff happens, you can grab and go. Obviously, for example, like I said, when the Napa earthquake hit a couple months ago, the cat was under the bed. They couldn't find it. My mom and grandma evacuated the building before, because you don't know the stability of the structure.
You don't know if there's going to be a natural gas leak. You don't know if there's going to be a live wire somewhere.
Aftershocks.
You just don't. Aftershocks. A lot of people don't know that when you have a major earthquake, there's always little aftershocks happening, and you're more likely to get another big one right after a big one.
Right. There's a 24-hour window, and it depending on how strong those aftershocks are, they do decrease. Normally they decrease. I remember in Northridge, they didn't really decrease that much. They were still between 3 and 4s, and that was a couple days, even a week later. They were shaking for a while.
Yeah, I remember being pregnant one time where, I was only pregnant once.
Yeah.
But
that was a weird statement. I was like,
sorry.
Is there something you want to tell me now?
When I was on maternity leave, our baby was due in like a week.
Yep.
And we went through an earthquake. It was a small earthquake, but it was enough to rattle us.
Okay, it was a small earthquake, but in your case, you felt it different than I did. I was over at the hospital working. I was at the top floor, and that building shook in circular motion. We thought that building was coming down. It was severe.
And we lived in an old apartment building. I was scared, because I was in the bedroom, the furthest away from the exit.
Yeah.
So, and then when you're 9 months pregnant, you don't move very well.
No, you waddle.
So I got myself over to the door frame pane, because they say stand in a door, an actual door jamb area, it's the sturdiest. By the time I got there, it stopped. And I just waddle myself outside, and I look around, and come to find out that everything was still okay, and we got cleared very quickly.
Well, you were out of the door the moment the shaking stopped. When I was in the hospital, I was working, I was part of their public safety department. I actually had to go into disaster preparedness mode, and it was a lot worse than what you actually can imagine. Our apartment took that a lot better than what the hospital did.
It was pretty crazy, and the hospital was
hospital,
newer.
yeah, well, in California, one thing a lot of people don't know is that every building has to be up to earthquake code. Now, of course, every building had to have been up to a certain code, especially hospitals, and it was a severity check. Now, there had been seismic cracks, huge cracks in the stairwell. One thing that Sarah never got to see from that is there had been seismic cracks that were huge. We actually thought that the medical office building could have collapsed. It was so bad. And try being the first responders, which we were running up the stairs, top floor of the medical office building, evacuating that place, not knowing if there was going to be earthquakes. So that was pretty bad.
And what's crazy about being where we're at, we're actually sitting on one of the largest faults.
Well, now we are.
And they haven't had any kind of issues in years since,
decades, actually.
Since the Mississippi ran backwards.
Yep.
But, so that's basically the earthquake preparedness. You want to make sure the kit is close to the door because you want to get out. Unless you're in a massive earthquake, then there's nothing that's going to help, unfortunately. But if it's enough to where you got rattled pretty good, well, you need to grab your pets, grab the box, leave.
Right. Well, that's why all this stuff should already be preset. That's why I always say pre-make this stuff. At least a 72-hour kit would be good. With a cat, one time feed them water, litter box.
And most of the time when you're in California, you're in a public area, so you can help. You need to help each other. If you have something that someone doesn't have, help them. You're going to get help.
Yeah.
Everything's going to get solved. They've been through enough earthquakes. They know how to handle it. Now, the part that scares me is flooding.
Yes.
When you're close to the coast or even the Gulf of Mexico, the flooding gets so intense. So your number one thing, no matter what, should be to go and
seek higher ground.
You seek higher ground and make sure your pet's always up to date on their vaccinations, like they always should be. Make sure that you microchip your pet, because in a the case of a flood, you can't hold your pup up and get yourself above water too.
Well, yeah, you have very swift moving water that's going to put you under, and it's going to have kind of that rip curl that's going to drag you under as well. There is just no way of surviving and trying to save an animal.
So the biggest thing is making sure your microchip is up to date. Anytime any little thing changes, get it up to date. Switch to a new owner if you have to rehome your pet for some reason. Make sure all your phone numbers are correct. Your address is spot on. Even put a alternative address on there if you can. I'm not sure, but if you can, put an alternative address.
We need to get a vet. We do need to get a vet on here. That is coming. That is coming. It's just a matter of lining one up.
See, no matter what, you got to keep yourself safe because you're going to be no good to your animal if you yourself aren't safe.
Very true.
Dogs and cats, they have a natural ability to swim. They do their doggy paddle. Cats do too. They don't
Cats usually are better at climbing trees, climbing areas that they can get above the water.
Exactly. So just make sure you are safe first, and then proceed to get to your animals. It's like when you're on a plane. You got to put your mask on first so that you have enough oxygen so you can help others.
Very true. Now, of course, now we've mentioned what to do in a situation where you actually have an earthquake, tornado. You have a preparedness kit. We've already talked about updating all of your information for your animals. Obviously, we've always said this. We mentioned this in an episode way long ago. I don't remember what number. ID tags on pets. Cats need to have a breakaway collar. Dogs need to have their stuff so that they make sure that there's a contact number. Just because you have a microchip doesn't mean you can't just have the tag on there. The tags are important. Make sure that your rabies tags are up to date. Put that on your dog.
Yeah, because somebody will be more apt to help your pet if your pet got away from you and is in danger. They're going to be more apt to help if they see an ID or a rabies tag hanging from their collar. So at least they know the dog's up to date on their shots. So if they by accidentally get bit, they're not going to get infected or have to go through those shots.
And that could even be an animal control officer who is in the area, because they're going to be in full force. If there's an incident that happens, if there's some kind of earthquake, tornado, tsunami, whatever, when any of these things happen, animal control is going to be out there. They're going to be scouring. Now, they're going to find animals. If they see a rabies tag, they're going to see all this information, and they can get in touch with you a lot quicker. These are very important things that you guys need to know. All right, so you found shelter. Now, as you heard in this clip, you can contact hotels, motels in your area. Now, they are going to fill up very quickly when there's a disaster. Everybody is going to just call that first one up, and they're going to get there. Be prepared for that. Be prepared. You may actually have to drive a distance, which may or may not be accessible to you. So that's why you have to have an emergency kit for yourself. You may have to sleep in your car or go to a school. The gym has Red Cross that'll set up. You have to be prepared for any of these things. If you don't want to be in that environment, you could sleep in your car, but we don't recommend it. But if you're going to do it, then make sure that you actually have things, blankets, pillows, food, water.
Another thing
non-perishables, obviously.
Another thing too, now you mentioned non-perishables. No matter what you get for your animal and food-wise, it will perish. It does have an expiration date.
That is true.
So you want to make sure you rotate stock. That by doing rotating stock, you always know where it's at.
What is rotating stock for those who don't know?
Keep track of the expiration date on the food. If the food's going to expire in 1 month, you need to go back and buy some more and put in there to freshen up the food, and then you take that stuff that's going to expire in a month, take it out, and then feed it to your pets before they expire.
Now, that's not going to hurt the animals in any way. That's food that's...
It's still a month between their expiration
date. And
even
the expiration date, and I'm not saying go past the expiration date, even the expiration date still has some leeway. It's kind of like the E on your tank of gas. It doesn't mean your car is empty. It means it's getting there. There's just a little bit longer you can go.
Yeah, don't push it.
Don't push it too far.
So that's why I say you want to check. You can write it down on the top of the box on a piece of paper. Food expires on and the date, and then you can know when to go and rotate the stock.
Right.
And rotate your water bottles too, because water bottles don't stay fresh forever, especially with the plastic. Mm-hmm. I know there's certain plastics out there that aren't going to deteriorate in the water, like leaving a hot bottle a bottle of water in your car and then drinking it later after it's been really, really hot.
That's not a good idea.
It's not good. You're going to get toxins in there. So you want to make sure everything gets rotated properly.
Very
so
true.
that you don't end up with a sick dog, or you don't end up sick when you're going through a disaster.
Very true. Now, your stock, make sure, again, you have to make sure you, the human, actually has everything up to date. Make sure, again, your water isn't going to go bad. Make sure that your non-perishables are not going to be stale. You don't want to get food poisoning or have any kind of illness during a disaster. During that time, hospitals are going to be overrun with trauma from buildings collapsed, from power lines that go down. Somebody could get electrocuted, even down to somebody could be struck by lightning during some of these storms. You just never know, so don't take chances. Make sure, and before I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Make sure you have a first aid kit.
I was going to go there.
You are. First aid kit, and this is one of those things, I wouldn't say keep it in your disaster preparedness area. Keep it in your car. These things should be in your car at all times.
You should have at least one or two.
Yes.
Have one in the box and one in your car. Along with that kit, you have to make sure you have stuff where you can stabilize your pet's leg, your arm, something. So you need enough in there that you guys can doctor the animals, doctor yourself when needed. Another thing, too, that you would definitely want is a can opener. Especially,
I was thinking that.
Especially if your cat only eats canned food, or if your dog only eats canned food. Sometimes those pop tops bust off, especially if you're in a hurry, you're shaking, it pops off. How the heck are you going to get into this? You can't exactly use your teeth. So get a can opener so you can get into that food and give it to your pet. So a can opener is actually extremely important, and a pair of scissors, so that if you can open up the dog food, that you can cut off gauze in case your kit doesn't have a gauze, style scissors.
Yeah, I would still do, and make sure those scissors are sharp enough, but not sharp enough to cut you.
Well, yeah, you want to
make
make sure that you can get through clothes in case you need to cut off a pair of pants.
Yes.
Because you got a wound
But try
underneath
not
there,
to make something
especially with that skinny jean crap going on here.
Gosh. Luckily, though, we're not like Europe. I mean, you have not seen skinny jeans until you've been to Europe. It is awful. I mean, it cuts off circulation.
You look
like a Smurf from the waist down. And I'm not joking, everybody. And it's bad. So these are things to consider. And of course, summer is starting to end right around, for most of us in the world. So with summer ending, with winter, you know that you're going to be more likely for flooding. You're going to be more likely for hurricanes. You're going to be more likely for tornadoes. So make sure that you're prepared for this time. Make sure that your pets are prepared for everything. They have everything that they need. Make sure you have everything you need. Now that winter's coming up, if you live in a place like Missouri or you're on the East Coast, you probably already know this, but have blankets in your car. You never know what could happen.
You can get stranded on the side of the road when the snow hits, and you need that.
You could slip off the road into a ditch and nobody will see you, and you're going to need to have something to keep you warm until somebody can get to you.
Exactly. I mean, we've gotten stuck in our driveway once, or I did. I got ourselves stuck in our driveway once. There was a big ditch I forgot about, and we got stuck. I had to have a tow truck pull us out, and we're in. Oh gosh, it was embarrassing. Anywho, Chris stayed inside. He was like, "I'm not going to go out there and face that.
I'm going to be embarrassed. No way."
But make sure you got blankets, jackets, and stuff like that. Water that isn't frozen.
Don't keep the water in your car.
Well, you can. It's just most of the time it doesn't get cool enough for it to freeze straight solid. We're not in Antarctica. We're not in the coldest parts of Alaska.
Last year was really cold. I mean, water did freeze in the car.
Yeah,
I did see that.
Yeah.
Because I left a bottle of water and it froze overnight. So if you're going to go out, I still suggest have that kit in your house. When you're going to go out, if you're going to go on the highway, put that kit in your car. Kind of go back and forth. It takes a few extra seconds out of your day, but these are things you really, just to stay safe, I would recommend it. You don't have to take anything we say, but these are things that we would recommend that you do.
And it's always best to keep at least a blanket or two inside the actual cab or cabin or whatever you want to call it.
I think they consider it a cabin.
Okay. of your actual vehicle, and maybe some in the trunk if you can get to your trunk. But sometimes you're going to get off that ditch and there's just no way you're going to get to your trunk.
Right. And, you know, when you live in a place like we do, you have between 100 miles to 2 cities or 50 miles to the capital. So you're kind of having to think, maybe I should have something in the cabin in case. And if you have your animals, if you're transporting, for example, if you're transporting pets to, you know, St. Louis, Springfield, Jefferson City, Columbia, you're probably going to have, you know, they're going to be in the vehicle with you. They're going to be in the cabin. Put them in a nice travel pet taxi so that they're safe. Put bedding in there, you know, some blankets so that they're not laying on plastic, and make sure you do have that emergency kit with you in the cabin for that drive. These are just
Stock up on hand warmers.
Yep. Just don't use them like they did in Zack and Miri.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Oh, that's terrible.
Movie reference. Now, I think that's really the end of topic. We kind of beat that down. Yeah, I think that we've covered it. If you have any other questions about it, if you have any questions at all, feel free to give us an email at thegroomernextdoor@yahoo.com.
Contact your local shelters for more information. It's definitely important to do so.
Right. It's going to benefit you.
It's honestly, it's your responsibility. The dog's responsibility is typically there to keep protection or to give you love, support, to lower your blood pressure. So they do all this for you. It's your responsibility to do this for them.
Yep, and it's just like a child. It's as simple as that. It's just like a child. Now, if you have, you know, one thing that we will mention really quick, if you have kids, you obviously know that the child's first and foremost the responsibility, then it's you. Now, a lot of people would say, no, it's you first. No, I'm going to put my kid first.
Well, I make sure that we're stable enough that we can help. And then make sure Claire has more stuff than I do, if that comes down to it. If I can only grab a little bit of stuff,
well, if we're
then
in a
that
disaster,
little bit of stuff is going to be Claire's stuff, and then I can fend for myself.
If we're in a disaster, my first and foremost thing is to get her into a safe place.
Right.
And I will risk anything to do that. And that's every parent out there. All right. So moving into lighter territory. As you have all heard at the beginning of the show, that's our Halloween intro to our song. This is our last week to play the Halloween intro. We have a Thanksgiving intro that's lined up and ready to go. I haven't decided yet if it'll be in the next episode or we'll wait an episode or two before we play it. I'm pretty sure a lot of you are not in the mood for the holidays, but unfortunately, they are here to come very quickly now that Halloween is just a couple days away. Let's see. Let's move on to, of course, my favorite topic, and that is Claire's soccer. So I'm going to play you the interview after Claire's soccer game. I am very proud that she scored 2 goals this past week. She could have had more. She missed one. It hit the post. And
they always miss it just by like an inch
gosh.
or two. They get so excited. They're right there. They just kick it without even aiming.
Yep.
Their little hearts break. It's so sad.
Of course, as a coach, you kind of are glad when the other team misses the net.
Well, secretly, that's adult talk.
Yeah, well,
We're not going to tell that to the kids.
Well, no, but the kids aren't listening to the show. I'm always happy when the kids on the team score. So, here we go. Claire's interview after her last game.
This is the Groomer Next Door Sports News. It's October 25th of 2014, and you just got done with your 4th game of the season. How was it?
Good.
What happened?
I scored a goal 2 times.
You scored 2 goals?
Yes.
That's amazing. Was it fun?
Yes.
Are you tired?
No.
You're all sweaty after the game. You kept saying, I'm thirsty. I need to go out.
Yes.
So what happened during the game? Anything special?
Yes.
What?
When I was kicking to the ball, I kicked really fast, and then I scored.
That was awesome. You almost had 3 goals.
Yes.
That last one almost went in, but it hit the net, the post.
Yes.
Well, that was a lot of fun to be there for that, and we'll have video of all your games coming up in about a week or two.
Okay.
I love you.
Love you.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, well, that is our daughter after her last game. She has one more game after this, one more practice, one more game, and I'm going to miss this like you wouldn't believe.
I'm excited for spring because I'll be able to, I'm going to tell them I'm going to coach. I'm going to co-coach.
You are going to the class, though, like I did, the pointless class that does nothing for you. You're going to it.
Anywho,
I got to mention this. Sarah got her first chance this past Monday. She got to be a co-coach because the other coach on this team was unable to make it because of other circumstances. So Sarah got to be on the field for the first time and coach the kids.
that was a lot of fun. I really, really enjoyed it. But you got to give those kids a lot of mental breaks so that they're not constantly learning. It's really
You
key.
really do have to make it. You have to make it fun. But
It just makes me want to coach even more. Assistant coach is just fine. It's great. I love it. So I can't wait till spring to do that. The game was a lot of fun. I was sitting on the sidelines. I got a little upset with the other coach. She wasn't very nice, and she screamed at a couple of our kids, and I wasn't going to have it.
Kind of went the other way, though. I kind of had my way out there with her. So.
Yeah, you ended up putting her in her place, which was grateful. But, you know, if you're going to be a big person out on the field, then hustle. If you're just going to walk back and forth, come on.
Yeah, this is not one of those things. If you've never actually coached kids soccer before, in this kind of area, we actually are on the field as referees and coaches, which isn't the easiest thing. So that could be a little challenging when you have another coach. And there are a few coaches in this league that are really undesirable, but you're going to find that no matter what. It's you got to get them in check.
I got out there and I was running around with the kids. You know, in the hour practice that we had, she can do the same thing.
Yeah,
So-
she's not the best, but
And then screaming at my kid, for one, I'm a parent on the sideline. 2, she is not your child. 3, you're obviously an attention and a huge aggressor
Yeah.
in your personal life, where you have to have everything under your own control.
yeah, she's definitely a dominant type person,
But you put her in place pretty good.
I was not going to have it. And you know, again, you have to be subtle, and you have to hold yourself to a certain standard because you got your kids there, and you want to make sure that they're going to learn.
What's great is that the kids didn't really care.
No.
And there's Rocco and Officer Gray as we speak.
Hey, there they are. If you actually have heard episode 16, that is, he might be dropping by. Maybe if he does, we'll actually do a side thing with him, but I don't think he will.
I'll just say hi.
Yeah. Well, he may want to join, but it won't be on this episode. I think he's going somewhere else.
See, he spells Rocco with 2 K's,
Is
and
that
we
how he
spell
spelled?
Rocco
Oh,
with 2
I spelled
C's.
it. Oh, wow, I didn't know
Rocco
that.
2 C's is really the
Oh, I didn't know that.
But that was kind of cool seeing him.
Well,
Anyhow.
I hope everybody has enjoyed this episode. Again, we thank everybody who is part of this show. It is, again, like I always say every week, it is a pleasure to do this show. It's a lot of work.
And for you guys that are in Northern California, around the Bay Area or the Napa area, sometimes it's worth driving a little further to get to an animal rescue that you really, really like and really feel like you want to get behind. And I believe this is one of those rescues.
And, of course, I can't even stress this enough. Fostering animals is a big deal. They have lots of cats there. That would be a great idea if you want to foster. If you are looking to adopt, they have a lot of cats. Obviously, they have more cats than anything else.
And if you're in a place that you're not allowed to have any animals, any cats or anything at all, and you still want to have that connection with an animal, with a pet, go down, volunteer. Spend your time with that baby on your lap. It can really, really help out, even if you can't actually own one yourself.
Very true. Well, unfortunately, my cup of coffee at the Giddy Goat is just about empty.
So mine.
I do enjoy coming here. I do enjoy this. People here are so awesome. Maybe one day, we'll actually do a live show in here and do a little bit more at the Giddy Goat. But anyways, I think we're actually running to the end of our week. I hope everybody has an absolute fantastic week. I can't say how much I enjoy doing this show. It cost us money, cost us time, cost us a lot to do it, but you know what? I love doing this.
Well, we actually learn more and more each time we do an episode, which is awesome.
We do.
If anything, we're actually paying for
We're
our
getting an education, yeah. Yeah, it is true. It's like we're getting a really good education.
And you never know, by getting more friends in more states with more rescues, the better off we might be able to help our community.
Very true. And if you know of any rescues that, you think should be on the show, it's
Who
very
deserve
simple.
a limelight on
Yeah,
them.
it's very simple. You send us an email, thegroomernextdoor@yahoo.com. We'll set it up just like we did this past interview. We can call anybody. And we can do this anyway. We write the book on how this is done, which is so nice. We have nobody pressuring us. And I do want to say we have at least 10 offers out to more people to do episodes with us. Of course, when I say 10 people, I mean 10 people of certain statute. They are professional athletes or actors.
So we'll see how that.
So we'll see how that plays out. I mean, these guys are very busy, so it is very hard. All right, everybody. I am Chris Green again. It has been a blast to do this episode. Have a pet-tastic week.
And I'm Sarah Green, making sure everybody realizes life is so short. Play with your pet.
Goodbye, everybody.